Star Wars 7x7, episode 1993. Yes, we still are in the safe zone leading up to the Rise of Skywalker, but I do want to talk about the fact that the big premiere was on Monday night out in Hollywood, and yeah, let's talk. Punch it. Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. So yeah, Monday night was the big debut movie screening for The Rise of Skywalker, the big red carpet premiere situation. And there were a lot of other podcasters who were out there for it. There were some film critics out there. I say some film critics, well, I'll explain that in its entirety a little bit later in the show. But what I want to flag for you at the moment is that I gather there was a social media embargo about anything related to The Rise of Skywalker and seeing it, and that ended on Monday night. And so now all bets are off. There are, hundreds of people who have seen The Rise of Skywalker already and who have the ability to spoil the movie for you. I will say for sure that on the one hand, spoilers are out there, and I have been lucky enough not to come across any of them, but I have seen people tweeting about the fact that people are putting spoilers out there, and so you should be very careful about it. But for the most part, the stuff that I have seen from people posting about it has been very spoiler-free. Twitter had one of their Explore things say, the first reactions are rolling in about The Rise of Skywalker, and so I did get to see some of that stuff, but really the experience of seeing these things is like, peeking through your fingers looking at this stuff, because as you scroll, and I don't know if you are still looking at Star Wars news or if you've, completely shut yourself off in these last couple of days. But yeah, man, as I'm looking at some of this stuff, I'm like scrolling very carefully just because I'm afraid that I'm going to scroll past the one tweet that's going to be like, oh, and suddenly everything is ruined. And I know there are folks out there who actually appreciate this stuff, like, for example, Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net. I mean, his whole website is dedicated to rumors and leaks and spoilers and pursuing that sort of thing. And he has been on record for the longest time saying that that stuff actually doesn't hamper his viewing process when he sees the movie in its entirety. In fact, he says that he appreciates it more because he knows what's coming in even the first viewing of it. And I'm sure he's not alone in that regard. But what I will say about whether it's Making Star Wars or Star Wars Newsnet, those two are the primary sites that I know of that generally deal in rumors and leaks and spoilers and that sort of thing. And they're very good about making sure that they let you know that they have that information, but not actually telling you what that information is in their headlines so that you have an opportunity to steer clear if you need to. I guess what I'm ultimately trying to get at is that for right now, here we are. It's 36 hours until the release of The Rise of Skywalker based on when this YouTube episode drops, and the podcatcher version of the app, it'll be 39 hours before The Rise of Skywalker. So, this is your ample warning for other outlets that if you don't want anything spoiled for you, you really need to be careful now because the embargo's been lifted, all bets are off. There are people who saw it on Monday in Hollywood who are now on social media channels and saying, hey, don't spoil it for anyone else. We're not going to spoil it. Don't you spoil it. But people are out there who are going to do that just because that's how they get their kicks, basically. Just be aware. Just be aware. And if there are trusted sources for Star Wars news that you already know and love, stick to those very well-worn paths for the next couple of days before you get to see the movie in theaters for yourself. Now, the one thing that seems to be missing in all of the foofara from the premiere on Monday, well, that I will now tell you about after the break. Stay tuned. Hey Rebel Rouser, I've made some changes to the asteroid belt level at patreon.com/SW7X7, and they are all with sponsors in mind. So if you want to get the word out about your business, your product, your service to a dedicated Star Wars audience, then please check out patreon.com/SW7X7 and look for the asteroid belt level for details. Again, that's patreon.com/SW7X7. Welcome back. So, as I mentioned earlier, there were film critics who were at the premiere of The Rise of Skywalker. It wasn't just a quote-unquote, friendly audience, if you will. Like, it wasn't just filled with Star Wars fans. It was filled with media professionals also. And the thing that's a little puzzling to me is that there are no actual film critic reviews that have been posted yet. I mean, I have seen some film critics tweeting about what they thought about The Rise of Skywalker, so, that stuff is out there, so maybe the embargo was only a social media embargo per se. But I was a little bummed to discover that actual full write-ups of the movie were not available just yet. I have looked, and as far as I can tell, it was the same way with previous Star Wars movies in the Disney era, so I don't think this is unusual. I don't think this is, a good or a bad sign one way or the other or anything like that. I just thought it was something that I was really looking forward to and thinking, okay, I can read some stuff about the movie that's a little more formally produced and yet still not necessarily have things spoiled for me, but it ain't out there yet. So we're just going to have to wait another 36 hours or less before this movie hits us. And that, for now at least, is going to do it for this episode of the show. Thank you so much for joining me for it, as always. Thank you for keeping it spoiler-free up until the release of The Rise of Skywalker, and maybe for a few days afterward, just to give people the chance, all right? Yeah. And, of course, as always, may the Force be with you, wherever in the world you may be.
This podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox. It is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other related Star Wars items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2019 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.